following program is a production of The Bob and John Show. Any similarity between person and places is strictly a coincidence. The producers of this program are solely responsible for its content.
It's now time for the Sudsy Wudsy Show, brought to you by Sudsy Wudsy. Sudsy Wudsy. It's an all-purpose cleaner. It's a car wash. It's a bubble bath. Yes, it's Sudsy Wudsy. Sudsy Wudsy now proudly presents The Adventures of Jimmy Ballpoint, Private Investigator, Ear, Eyes, and Nose. The complete package. Jimmy Ballpoint.
This is where I work, the city. It used to be a nice place with nice people. But like everything else, they left. And now the city is a dark and gritty city with dark and gritty sidewalks, with dark and gritty taxis. Downright depressing if it wasn't for the gum stuck under the tables at the automat. I'm Jimmy Ballpoint, private investigator, ear, eye, and nose, the complete package. My office is up 3 flights of stairs, straight up, right above a flop house. A little office with a desk, chair, sink, and a couch. Like I said, a dark and gritty place. But it's just right for a guy like me. The case that I'm working on now is the mystery of arugula vermicelli, the Bey-Bey Baritone. I had nothing to do one evening, so I took in a show at the Plaza a lot later. Opera House. Different, I know. But I figured maybe a little upgrading in my surroundings might do me some good. Hey, well, look at that. I'm even sounding better already. The people on the stage were doing this show in some sort of lip that was way over my head. But for the first time in a long time, I got a good amount of sack time in. I woke to the shaking of my left arm. Some dame all dolled up in this costume of a dress and a white wig. I almost popped the babe in the pearly whites, but she stepped back, told me the opera was over. I pushed my Manhattan back on my head, rubbed my forehead, stood up, got my balance and sense of direction, then walked up the red carpet aisle, through the lobby, and pushed open the 2 wooden doors and out into the street. A voice called me with, "Sir, sir." Took me by surprise. I turned and the sweet little number with the white wig handed me my wallet. She said it was on the floor, next to the seat where I was catnapping. The dame had these baby blue eyes that I could really get used to. I could see blue skies, blue birds, blue clouds. Okay. I got an imagination. I walked back to my office. 3 flights, straight up. Turned left, pushed the door open, and there I was. The drip, drip of the sink in the corner said I was home. I emptied my pockets. Just enough dough to end the day with. I pressed my toe of one of my shoes against the heel of my other shoe and slid that shoe off. I returned the favor with the other shoe, stretching my legs out and working my fingers on the bottom of my feet. It's been a long day on these dogs. Time to rest them up. I headed for the couch when the phone rang. Yeah, Jimmy Ballpoint, private investigator. Ears, eyes. Call somebody else. I hung up. The phone rang again. I was getting a little upset that the phone company couldn't take a hint. You have reached the number of... The voice on the other end was Captain Finn, a hard-boiled Irish gumshoe that came up through the ranks the hard way. A straight shooter, no-nonsense kind of cop that had my back once or twice. Fact was, we were partners once, a very long time ago. He stayed with it. I went this route, but that's another story. Finn asked me if I heard anything on the street about a missing baritone from the opera house, a pious mug that goes by the name of Arugula Vermicelli. I told him this was the first I heard about it. He hung up. Just like Finn. Not a thank you, hope you're feeling swell. Nothing. I left the receiver off the hook, walked over to the couch, and stretched out. It didn't take long for the day to catch up to me. Arugula vermicelli. Arugula vermicelli. I'll have to remember that. But for now, I'll settle for the glowing lullaby coming through my office window. That pulsating glow, that rhythm that lulled me to sleep. That light that lulls me to sleep every night from across the street. That glow that says, eats. I rolled over on my office couch and caught the morning sun smack dab in the face, along with the pounding on my office door. I rolled off the couch, shielded my eyes from the glare of the sun. A stark change from the neon rockababy last night. I rubbed my forehead and hollered, "All right, all right." I stood up, then paused, muttering to myself, "Take the gas pipe, you bum." The pounding stopped. I looked at the office door, and it was halfway open. There, standing halfway in, was a long, slender silk stocking, filled in with a shapely pin that went right up to the doorknob. The doll said it wasn't locked. I wanted to say something smooth, something that would take over the conversation. I started, but swallowed the wrong way and started a coughing fit. I turned and headed for a glass cup on my desk. The dame followed me and started to pat me on the back. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out a small box of wires, ripped open my shirt, yelled something in my ears. Two flat paddles that looked like they came out of a ping pong set, rubbing the paddles together, slapped them on my chest, and the dame leaned back, holding the ping pong paddles up to the side of her head. I was dazed. The smell of burnt hair and singed cloth hung in the air. The room was spinning. I stumbled to my desk and barely held my balance as I sunk into my wooden swivel, resting both arms on my desk. I reached for the glass right in front of me, focused my eyes as I made 2 attempts to grab and hold the glass. I opened the bottom left drawer of my desk, removed 80 proof of breakfast, looked at the dame and asked if she wanted breakfast. I reached behind me to a small fridge and asked the dame if she wanted some ice, sunny side up or over easy. The amber wake-up went down hard, clearing my throat. I started to squint my eyes and shake my head. I noticed the dame grabbing for her purse. I raised my hand and motioned. Everything was okay. A few moments passed, and I sat back in my chair and asked the dame why she was in my office. Then I remembered. This was the same good looker that woke me up after the opera. She's the one that gave me my wallet. So, that's how she found me. She said, no, her uncle was a captain on the force. He sent her. I slugged down another bit of breakfast, thinking to myself, way to go, Finn. The dame told me that the star of the opera house, Arugula Vermicelli, was visiting the city when he turned up missing. I suggested that he might be in the motel just outside of town, in disguise, pretending to be the mayor. She looked puzzled and asked, why would Arugula Vermicelli pretend to be a mayor? I was going to go into an explanation, but I didn't want to get slapped with ping pong paddles again. She took a music record out of her purse, as I thought to myself, now that is some purse. She looked around my office for a phonograph to play it on, so she asked. I said the phonograph was right next to the champagne fountain. She reached for her purse. I apologized and suggested that we go elsewhere to hear the record. The dame and I went downstairs, turned right, and went to Angel's bar. Angel had a lot of stuff tucked away in his back room. Maybe a sound of his master's voice. Who knows? It was early, yet the place was with its usual cast of characters. Snitch was in the phone booth talking ponies at the track with Old Man Pierogi. Wrinkles, Old Man Pierogi's collector, was measuring Snitch for a place in the back of his heap that he drove around in. Angel was counting the receipts from last night's wine-tasting social. And on the ivory keys was Knuckles, a cousin of Wrinkles. When Knuckles first started at Angel's, he could only play 3 blind mice. With Wrinkles' help, now he plays 4 blind mice. I asked Angel if he had a phonograph in the back room. He told me to look for myself. As I passed Angel with the doll, Angel gave me that familiar look. Another dame. It didn't take me long to find a phonograph. Kind of beat up. A few dents here and there, but then I didn't look so hot either. I cleared away a place on an old wringer washer and cranked the phonograph up. The dame put the record on the turntable, then lowered the phonograph needle. I lifted the needle off the black lip and told the dame, "And this is the stiff that's missing? So, what's the problem?" She said, with arugula vermicelli gone, there was no performance. No performance meant no box office. No box office meant no dough. No dough meant the mortgage on the opera house would be in default. Default meant, I told the dame, I got the picture. She said that there was more. Of course, there's always more. It seems that arugula vermicelli was on a temporary visit to this country, making a tour. Some kind of politics, you know, hands across the sea and all. The dame and I headed for the door of the back room when standing there was Wrinkles. The mug blocked out the light coming from the bar, startled the dame. I reassured her there was nothing to worry about. I gave a nod to Wrinkles to move aside so the lady could pass. He smiled at her and stepped to one side. He told me that it sounded like Snitch was in here bawling his eyes out about losing at the track again. I told Wrinkles about arugula vermicelli, and he just gave a and said, "Oh, that's stiff." The dame and I both stopped cold and looked at Wrinkles. Now, I didn't want to press Wrinkles for information on anything. Wrinkles was a two-word guy, usually. Where's Snitch? That's mine. Come here. You know, things like that. But this time, something was different. He looked at the doll and something came over him. He looked at her with a softness that totally surprised me. Wrinkles took off his bowler and asked the doll, was it important for her to know? She looked up at Wrinkles and in a timid voice said, "Yes." Wrinkles looked over at me, extended his arm, grabbed me by the belt, and pulled me over, like sliding down a beer mug on Angel's Bar, and told me to poke around the piers, dock number 40, the one where the Andrea, don't you know it, is tied up. Just don't go down there after dark. Wrinkles let me go, and I thanked him for that. Seems that my pants fit better. We started to leave Angel's. Wrinkles led the way, opened the door for the dame, and went into the street. The dame stopped, turned, and looked back at Wrinkles. Wrinkles stood in the doorway, smiled, and slowly closed the door. Kind of odd, the Wrinkles thing. Different, strange. The only time I've ever seen Wrinkles hold a door open was when he ripped it off its hinges, like the time he was at Snitch's front steps, and he knocked on the door, and Snitch told him no one's home. I called a taxi for the dame. She was staying at the Opera House. The taxi drove up to the taxi stand. I opened the back door and motioned the dame to get in. I told her that I got the cover taken care of. I looked in the front seat passenger's window and stopped dead in my tracks. It was Blinks. I never got his first name, Blinks was it. Blinks had a stigmatism thing, but he was a nice guy. Didn't talk much. Come to think of it, he didn't talk much at all. I told Blinks where to drop the dame off, handed him a sawbuck, and had to follow his hand back and forth as he tried to focus his eyes on the dough in my hand. He grabbed the dough, then reached up and repositioned his glasses. I thought to myself, Angel doesn't have shot glasses that thick. As Blinks drove away, I should have picked up on all the dents and creases in the fenders and bumpers of his cab before letting the dame get in. But then, the Opera House is just down the street. Blinks is going the wrong way, but he'll figure it. I went back to my office, opened my window to let some fresh sidewalk breeze drip in. I visited my old friend, Amber Glow, settled into my chair, opened my desk drawer and rummaged through some stuff, and found that black pouch where I keep some old memories. Funny thing about memories, it's a way of remembering things that either should or shouldn't be there. That pattern that's pressed its way to the surface of the pouch was my old badge. My old badge. I remember Finn and I started off together. We did a stick beat down by the docks. The same docks and piers that Wrinkle mentioned. That's where Finn pushed me out of the way of the hollow point. A few of them, as I remember. I was a rookie then. Was a sap for believing anyone and everyone. A guy like me grew up fast down there, thanks to Finn. He's a captain now. Good for him. It takes a lot to make captain around here. It's not so bad with the streets and the action. It's the politics and the maneuvers that can get a mug coming and going. Finn's a tough nut to crack. I knew he'd make it. Me, I just ran at the mouth to the wrong set of ears. I thought I was being polite by telling one sleazeball what trolley he could slip under to catch the uptown ride. The mug just couldn't take a joke. Finn tried to step in, but I just walked. Jimmy Ballpoint. Ears, eyes. I was interrupted by, speak of himself, Captain Finn. He wanted to know how his niece was doing, finding this arugula vermicelli mug. I asked Finn, strange, how he's not into this thing himself. Why me? He said arugula vermicelli was wanted by the federal boys across town. You know, those J. Edgar vacuum types with the clean suits and starched shirts. The guys they make the movies about. The guys that drive around in new cars. The kind of guys that Finn stopped short of more. It was quiet. Very quiet. Finn had to compose himself. He and the feds never got along. Goes back to the time he busted the case of the missing Hubba Hubba heiress. Found her in the mailroom of the federal building, licking stamps. She had this thing for stamps. The feds never got over that, especially now that the feds had licked their own stamps. Like I said, they never got over that. I told Finn that his niece was back at the opera house. Blinks, the taxi driver, drove her back. I picked up the tab myself. Finn seemed very concerned. He said, "Not Blinks. He can't see the buttons on his own shirt." I thought to myself, come to think of it, he was wearing a sweater. I told Finn I'd take care of it. Finn hung up. Not even a thank you. How things going? Yeah, that's Finn. I hung up the phone, reached into my side drawer, took out my stub-nose .38 in a holster made of potholders by my mom. I turned around and started to close my window. It was getting dark outside. I remembered what Rickles said about staying away from the docks at night. I went over to the coat rack and threw my slicker over my shoulder, put on my Manhattan, and went down to the taxi stand next to Angel's Bar. I was waiting for a taxi, not that far from Two Finger Tommy's shoeshine stand. Two Finger Tommy seemed worried about something. His head turned back and forth, and he would take a bending posture at the slightest noise. I asked him, "What's with the bending and the ducking?" He said that he found this boomerang in the trash. Thought he'd try it out. See if it's true that they always come back. I thought for a moment and told Two Fingers maybe it was in the trash because it didn't come back. He made his way behind the shoeshine stand and hid. A taxi pulled up. It was Blinks. Ah, just the mug I was looking for. I got in the back and started grilling the mug about the dame that was going back to the opera house. I picked up the tab on that one. Blinks told me that she wasn't going to the opera house. She was going down to the docks, Pier 40 to be exact. The docks. Pier 40. Now, how did she know about the docks in Pier 40? I told Blinks to head down to the docks, Pier 40. We drove down to the piers, a depressing sight. The large steamship buildings, rusted baggage trolleys, were a dismal backdrop to this place. The overhead rail cars blocked out the street lamps, giving an eerie look to the push carts that went up and down the docks. Blinks pulled up to Pier 40. I got out, closed the taxi door, and told Blinks, "Wait here. I'll be right back." Great. Wonderful. It took a while for my eyes to focus. A fog was settling in. On again and off again. Street lamps didn't help any. In the distance, I saw two figures, one smaller than the other, both in raincoats, wide-brim hats, two suitcases next to the tall one. The tall one was embracing the shorter figure. I walked up to the two slowly. The small figure moved behind the large figure. As I got closer, I recognized the dame. She recognized me. She asked not to interfere, to leave both of them alone. Tell no one, anyone, about what you see here. The larger figure next to her was a man, a handsome mug, I'll give him that. He said something to me, but I didn't understand the language. He said it was a pleasure to meet you. She told him about me, how honest I was, how kind I was, how, kind of disappointing. The dame ran out of house. The man was arugula vermicelli, and they were in love with each other. The feds wanted to talk to the mug because he was in the country on false papers. He was here to see the dame. They met while she was on a cruise, a tour through Europe. That's where they met. She had to come back, but he didn't have a passport to join her. I thought to myself, a mug falls in love with a beautiful dame, and the things he'll do amazes me. It amazes me all the time. The dame told him to be on the ship. It was leaving. If he stayed, he'd be arrested. They embraced, and he picked up his baggage and walked up the boarding ramp of the old steam freighter. The kind of freighter that asks no questions, just how much. The dame started to cry, then ran up the boarding ramp and joined him. The boarding ramp fell away, and the large ship started to pull away from the dock, but was having trouble. It was snagged on something. I turned and followed the large line that was on the dock pylon, and there, holding the line, holding this large steam freighter back in the shadows, was Wrinkles. Wrinkles looked up at the deck and saw her. She looked down at him and smiled, tears in her eyes, then turned away. I walked over to the big guy and slowly said, sometimes we just gotta let go, release our grip and just some part of us just let go. Wrinkles loosened his grip. The dock line fell into the water. The steamer backed away from the pier and vanished into the fog. I watched the ship disappear, then turned to tell Wrinkles that he did the right thing. He was gone as well. I was about to start a long walk back to my office when a beat-up old hearse pulled up. The front passenger door swung open and I got in. Wrinkles was silent all the way back into town. He pulled up in front of Angel's bar. I got out. I mentioned to Wrinkles to join me. I could hear a pounding noise from the back of the hearse. Wrinkles had a smirk on his face. Some other time was the look he gave me. But for now, he was on the clock for Old Man Pierogi.
Well, folks, that concludes another episode of Jimmy Ballpoint, Private Investigator, brought to you by Sudsy Wudsy, that all-purpose cleaner. Keep your radio dial on this station for next week's Jimmy Ballpoint, Private Investigator. Ear, eye, nose, the complete package.